Hi, welcome to
the countdown to the release of Pokémon Scarlet and Violet!
Back when Pokémon Diamond and Pearl released, they were a big deal. Despite being tired of playing Pokémon by the time they came out, I still ended up playing Pearl version, getting on board right when the games were new. Pearl, for whatever reason, got me back into the series. When Pearl was the newest game, I went back and replayed all the old games. Before anything else new came out in the main series, it didn't feel like a long time because I was spending more time than ever with the older games. So, once it was announced that there would be a new version based on Diamond and Pearl, I was actually excited for once. Since I had been spending a lot of time with the old games, I had so many ideas in my head of what they might include in Platinum. Its existence wasn't exactly a surprise. It was tradition at this point to release a third special edition game with each generation. But considering Diamond and Pearl had already included many elements from previous games, there was speculation that this game would go one step further. For once, I actually followed the pre-release hype for Platinum here in the US. I watched many a video of Japanese copies being played, and anxiously awaited the day I could play the game myself. Well, Platinum version did come out, and us fans loved it. This was not only a good Pokemon game in its own right, but since its release, it's become known as one of the high points of the entire series. Notice I said one of them. After Platinum came out, news began breaking that remakes of Gold and Silver were coming to the DS. This was fantastic news. Gold and Silver were excellent sequels to the first games, but they were becoming more and more antiquated by the year. All of our save batteries dying and needing replacement wasn't helping either. Just like Platinum version, I followed the pre-release hype closely. I found screenshots, then watched videos, and listened to the soundtrack while doing homework. When Heart Gold and Soul Silver came out, they were better than I ever could have hoped for. Game Freak really went all out for these games, pushing them past the mere status of remake. Platinum had made Diamond and Pearl look like amateur hour, and now Heart Gold and Soul Silver were making Platinum look like amateur hour. I put a lot of time into Soul Silver. I mean, I really got the most out of this game that I possibly could. So, I was a pretty big Pokemon fanboy at this point, right? I was replaying the old games, getting hyped for the new games, and playing them on day one. Eventually, the era of Heart Gold and Soul Silver being the newest games began to come to an end, as news began breaking of yet another new set of games coming to the DS. And these were not enhanced versions or remakes. A whole new generation, in fact. It was when Black and White versions came out that I did something that still confuses anyone I mention this to. I went to a game store, bought a copy of Black version, and never played it. But why, dude? Why? Seriously, you spent your own money on a new game and then didn't play it? How does that even make sense? Well, to be honest, I wasn't looking inward enough. I was still following the Pokemon news cycles from a distance, but I wasn't exactly eating up every bit of new info as it dropped like I had done before. Buying a new Pokemon game just felt like tradition now, so I did it. I wanted to have the game, but when it came down to it, I didn't want to play it. Well, thankfully with the passage of time, I can now pinpoint exactly why this happened. I've had years and years to remember this and think about it, so I think I've got all my facts straight. Let's go. 1. There were yet more new Pokemon games for the same system. This makes sense, right? When Diamond and Pearl were new, they felt like a big event for the DS, like these were Pokemon games on the new Nintendo handheld. This was Ruby and Sapphire taken to the next level. It was exciting to see the series leap to a new system, but at the same time, there was room for improvement. Platinum and Heart Gold and Soul Silver felt like they fulfilled the visions started by Diamond and Pearl for what Pokemon should be on the DS. And it felt like if there were new Pokemon games after these, they should be on a newer system with full 3D graphics. Black and White were biting at the heels of the beginning of the 3DS era of Nintendo. The DS was quickly becoming outdated at this point, and here were another set of new Pokemon games for this aging handheld. 2. They were soft reboots. This was something that was talked about a lot when Black and White were coming out. Up until this point, with the introduction of new Pokemon, a region's local Pokemon selection would include Pokemon from previous games. This was something I didn't have a problem with. as part of the selling point of the franchise was our attachment to the creatures themselves. So, finding out that the new games would feature an entirely new cast of Pokémon, at least for the main story, I no longer had nostalgia influencing my connection to the game. And it didn't help that from day one, a lot of fans were complaining about the new Pokémon designs themselves. The old school fans were dropping off the hype cycle, and so was I. 3. I was leaving high school. Yeah, real life stuff, I know, but it's inevitable that this comes up when I discuss why I fell off Pokémon. For me, the series was always just this fun thing I played when I had nothing else to do, like I mentioned yesterday. I didn't stop playing video games after high school, but I definitely spent less time with them. I had a lot of things going on, and a lot of life choices to start making. Pokemon being RPG games were the least likely thing to make the cut for what video games I would play in the time I had for video games, and of course they did not. It also didn't help that I was now taking my first steps towards being responsible for myself, meaning the last thing I had to spend money on was new video games. I passed on the 3DS when it came out. I didn't need any new games or systems. They weren't essential. So, by the time Pokemon X and Y were out, I was blissfully unaware of their launch date. 4. Lack of returning side content. Part of the fun of Pokemon games is spending time doing things separate from the main story. Following the pre-release info of Black and White, I saw no mention of things like contests, the underground, or secret bases. You know, stuff that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but makes Pokemon games feel more relaxing. Having never played Black or White yet, I may be completely wrong about what is or isn't in the game, but from how they were advertised, I didn't get the sense that stuff like this was prevalent. So yeah, all of this feels kind of negative and cynical, but keep in mind that I was never closed-minded about whether or not new Pokemon games could be good. I was always willing to give Gen 5 a shot if I ever felt up to it. The problem is that I never felt up to it. Well, I feel more than up to it than ever before, and very soon I will get around to playing and reviewing Black version, but not tomorrow. Today I talked about not playing a Pokemon game, but tomorrow I'm talking about playing a Pokemon game for a long time. Stay tuned for tomorrow as I talk about the time I played Pokemon Go for 12 hours straight without a break. Good night.